never seen anything like that in my life. Cars were floating. I remember that one with the blinking lights. And it's just us. We were the only crew there.
So there is a lot going on out here, and unfortunately, very little of it is good.
We drove up and we could hear the water. All right, I didn't really remember that, but you could hear the water. It almost sounded like a waterfall. We got out of the mobile weather lab. I remember we looked and there were three of us, myself and two photographers, and we were like, oh my gosh, what in the world? Because the water was just pouring in. It was just rushing in. It looked like, I don't know, a stream or some sort of tributary where the water would normally be rushing. It looked like water was supposed to be there. That's how much water there was. But as we well know, there shouldn't be any water there. And in its history, there has never been a flood in that tunnel until Sandy. So it was just, we almost couldn't believe what we were seeing. That was the moment that it was like, wow, and this is the reason why people were asked to evacuate. This is the reason why we've been saying the things that we've been saying and doing what we've been doing on air for these days, because I think it is, especially in a place like New York, it's not Florida, right? So people aren't necessarily familiar with storm surge and some of these things associated with hurricanes. It's not something that we see all the time. A lot of times, we'll deal with the wind, we'll deal with the rain from a hurricane or a tropical storm. We don't always deal with storm surge, especially in a location like Lower Manhattan.
It is unbelievable. And one thing I have to say is we also have this overwhelming smell of oil down here. I'm not exactly sure.
There are things I didn't remember. One of them that I talked about was the smell of the oil. And I'm like, oh, that's right. Because we were a little nervous because we weren't sure what it was coming from, if it was a hazard, like, is something about to, blow up? I mean, we don't know exactly what it is we're smelling or why. And, first responders were busy. So it's not like there was really anybody to ask. There were no professionals like just walking around to tell you what the hazards were. Most people really did heed our advice, and so they were indoors, someplace safe in a higher elevation, away from the water. So we were kind of out there on our own.
I have to tell you, Maurice, it looks pretty steady, and it's been steady for about a half an hour now. I mean, it's not really getting worse.
It is some of the worst that we've ever seen of Mother Nature here in the tri-state area. But I also thought that it brought out the best in the people. There were people who just were driving around from other parts of the tri-state area that weren't impacted, and they were just wanting to help. Yeah, that was, I forgot about that too, that we saw those people. The person who literally lived next door or across the street was probably not in a position to help you. So it would be the person who lived 30 minutes away, an hour away, who was in a position, because there were certain parts of the area that were unaffected, and those were the people that were driving in to say, we have water, we have food, we have cleaning supplies, we have, dry clothes. And that was, that's something you'll never forget.